Hello and welcome to the Black Diamond podcast here at Splash 2025 in Nashville, Tennessee. My name's Greg Beaton and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Ryann Hristovsky, and we have with us
Adrian Griffin from Subaru of America.
Thank you for joining us today, Adrian. Can you tell us a little bit about what your role is at Subaru?
I'm the financial systems manager at Subaru. I've been there as an employee since the tail end of 2019. Prior to that, I was there on numerous engagements as part of supporting their Oracle applications, but more recently I've sort of moved into the OneStream aspect of things. So I still support some aspects of the Oracle, but most of my role right now is supporting our OneStream applications.
Black Diamond's been working with Subaru for quite a few years now, and we've been working on multiple projects there. Can you explain a few of the things that we've done for OneStream?
Sure. We started off with consolidations. We felt that probably made the most sense in terms of having an application that took our actuals in, and basically in talking with Black Diamond Resources, it seemed like that made as much sense as any in terms of starting there, and we've had a ton of success with that. Next, we had a legacy S-based application that was associated with our extended warranty business that we call Added Security. And when we made the decision to move to OneStream, we felt that moving away from S-based would make sense, and we decided that the Added Security application would sort of be the next thing. Even though it was more of a custom application as opposed to something that's traditionally in the wheelhouse of OneStream, we still felt that it made sense to head down that path.
In the end, it really shows the power of the platform, because we're using the relational tables to be able to do your deferrals by contract, and then pulling it all together in cubes to report on it on a high level. So
exactly, it's offering the best of both worlds.
It's the best of the both worlds, even though it's not what most people would say would be a common application. It's really, it's coming together quite well.
So it is, and I know when it was originally developed on the S-based side, there were a tremendous amount of problems and issues associated with that, and I think we actually had a very good resource that was probably able to get as much out of S-based as possible to make the application work, We're looking forward to the OneStream side of it in terms of more being able to leverage more the traditional OneStream functionality for the users, as opposed to the S-based solution still had a tremendous reliance on our S-based resource. And he ended up having to still support quite a lot of the things the users weren't able to do as much as we would have hoped for in the application.
It's true. And as your OneStream resource, I hope that it's self-serving and you and the team can do everything.
Well, and we're absolutely looking forward to the same thing. I think the users, while they've been able to make the S-based application work for them, they are really looking forward to being able to do an awful lot more of the analysis and the journal entry detail and things like that than they have been able to do in the past.
True. And then in the future, you're also planning on using a planning application?
We are, I guess, when we headed down the journey, it seemed that there were a lot of things that we were looking for out of a platform. And as we've learned more about OneStream, there's a plethora of different areas that make sense for us in terms of trying to incorporate, whether they're existing marketplace solutions or whether they're extensions of the OneStream functionality. And budgeting and planning is definitely an area that we want to focus on. We're hoping that right now it seems that there's an awful lot of different OneStream initiatives going on. We talk to different departments and they're anxious for their particular project to sort of move to the top of the list. So it's ironic, we were in a meeting yesterday, and account reconciliation now is something that is being argued in terms of putting some attention on that. So it seems that, you know, there's no end to the different solutions that I think OneStream would be able to provide for a lot of the areas that we're struggling with right now.
I find that fascinating at Subaru because I started at Subaru about 2 years ago with you guys, and you were there before that.
Right.
And when you implemented the consolidation system, you did it, but when I came in, it was almost like your company didn't trust OneStream. What is this new software? We're not all in on it. And now, a couple years later, you're all in on it. Everyone's using the spreadsheet functions to get the data. And just the way the company has transformed over the past couple of years is amazing.
It is. Well, and the users had been using the Oracle application, and we still use it for a lot, but they had gotten so comfortable with doing things in that even though they may not have been as efficient as doing things in the OneStream application or trying to leverage the reports or some of the drill down functionality, they still was like, well, I know how to do it in this system, even though the newer system might be better and easier. There was definitely a time in terms of getting everyone comfortable to that. But to your point, yes, I think we've gotten to the point right now where the users are really happy and, you know, enjoy using OneStream. And we're actually at the point right now that I'm a lot of times getting requests in terms of, can we get this data set into OneStream, and can we get another data set into OneStream? So we've sort of, you know, are working in certain areas of additional data, whether it's statistical information or whether it's a different data set from one of other systems. We're looking to try and get that information into OneStream because the users are really to the point where they're comfortable with the system and, you know, they're able to get the information out of it very easily now.
We love hearing that, and that really demonstrates the power of OneStream and how it truly is a platform. Something you mentioned was the drill functionality. So that was something I remember during the console phase. We did some custom drill for you guys. Can you talk a little about
Sure. And that was, I guess, the one piece of the consolidations that was very custom. In the Oracle application, we had some functionality where we would run a concurrent request and it would then provide some of the subledger detail. We knew we didn't necessarily want to bring all of that information into OneStream. A lot of times, a user only generally needs it at one particular time, and it's very difficult to know what they might want, and to try and bring everything in just didn't seem like it was a useful way to try and integrate it into OneStream. So what we did working with Daniel and the Black Diamond team was we created a staging table on the Oracle side, and we developed some concurrent requests that run on a nightly basis. So what happens is all of the transactions that happen during the course of a day are added to this staging table. Then from the OneStream side, we have a cube view, and someone will pick a particular data element on that cube view. For instance, they might say, I'd like to look at my vehicle's revenue for this particular period, for this particular entity. There's a dollar value there. What happens is behind the scenes, the dimension information is passed into a query, and it's basically running the query and then pulling the transactions back that satisfy the information that's in that. And from there, we can export that to Excel, and the users can then work with what they're working with. So as much as we have tried to get the users to focus on summary level data, there's still a very, very strong tendency in terms of wanting to see the detail. And even when they look at a number, it's like, I'd like to see the detail behind that number. There's still, I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or it's just the way that they've been doing things for so long, but it's like, you give them the number and it's like, yeah, I want to see what's behind the scenes. And as opposed to doing it on an ad hoc basis, it still seems like there's a lot of processes where they'll get the number and it's like, okay, here's all my backup that supports that number, as opposed to just saying, well, we only need that support on an ad hoc when someone is questioning it, as opposed to providing it all the time. But But that has provided a tremendous amount of capabilities in terms of being able to, without necessarily getting all of that detail into OneStream, being able to get to that information rather seamlessly.
I remember last year at OneStream getting a shirt that said, "See the numbers behind the numbers." So that is the perfect example of that.
Exactly.
At Subaru would be see the VIN behind the number.
Yeah.
So correct, and VIN does mean an awful lot to an awful lot of users. Unfortunately, there's just an awful lot of detail associated with each VIN, but the expectation is to see that information in as many different ways that they can.
In the end, that's one of the real reasons why the platform is so powerful. Because when we think about financial reporting in cubes, you would never have a transaction level detail, which is what a VIN level would be, right?
Exactly.
But Subaru clearly wants that level of detail in all of their analysis, right?
Right.
Whether it's right or it's wrong, that's what they want. That's the requirement.
Exactly, and a lot of times it really is nothing more than, you know, they're aggregating that to get to the number they want, which is potentially being delivered anyway. But the comfort level is there in terms of being able to say, okay, can I see the details behind that number so that I'm comfortable in terms of you know, X amount of units that we sold this month, that sort of corresponds to what I'm seeing in terms of the data.
And it just shows how great OneStream is, that you can really bring these detailed data sets and these aggregated data sets together and make them live together and let the users see that this is the high level number, which is usually what the business and the accountants really want.
Exactly.
But then you can really drill into the transactions.
Right.
We couldn't do that in the past, right?
So, and that's been tremendous. And, you know, we're looking to leverage a lot of that same functionality with some of the stuff that has been worked on with added security, where, you know, Greg, you and Nick as part of the team have sort of worked on a custom interface that, again, I think while there's high level information in the cube views, the ability to give the transaction level detail, whether it's contracts or whether you know, information about a particular retailer, is still something that the users still seem to cling to. And as much as we're trying to get them looking at stuff at a more summarized level, there's that security blanket in terms of, you know, can I get to that lowest level that I've been able to get to before? And we've actually been able to do that in terms of a nice compromise.
One of the themes we've had on the podcast this year is change management. So it really comes down to change management in a lot of ways that I see at Subaru. So the changing of going to the high level numbers, because that's what they want, but they don't trust them unless they trust the system. So with the way we've been able to leverage that we can give them both. And then also the change management of what I was talking about earlier is when you first implemented OneStream for them, you guys weren't really all in on it. And now everyone's pulling reports into Excel. What is your advice for change management at a company to help push along these systems?
Well, one of the things, and in our case, we're probably still not there, and you have mentioned it, and a lot of the Black Diamond team have mentioned it, is that we need to get the users into the application much more so than just using the Excel interface. And unfortunately, financial types really just want to live in Excel, and give them a conduit to get information into Excel, and that's what they're doing. And while I think the retrieve functionality is nice, we really need to be moving away from that and potentially using the quick view functionality. I think that's fine, but we're still very much, I guess, in the retrieve functionality where everyone is developing those kinds of reports and they're getting their information that way, as opposed to, can we leverage cube views a little bit more, or can I leverage a quick view to get what I'm looking for, as opposed to this stock retrieve spreadsheet that is my go-to. And hopefully over time we'll get there. But again, it's still one of those areas where everyone loves their retrieve formulas, and that's how they're using it. But I think over time we will finally get them to see that a lot of the power of the application is actually using it the way it was intended and not just limiting yourself to what can I get into an Excel spreadsheet.
It's true. And as much as I've been trying to push your company into more formalized reports that they believe, the retrieve functionality has taken Subaru very far, because
has.
only a couple of years ago it was call someone in IT to run a SQL query against the GL or an MDX query against Essbase. So at least
Right.
they
They're
are self-serving,
self-sufficient
right?
in terms of that, yes.
Yes.
But, you know, like I said, from my perspective, I have been working with it an awful lot more than they have, and I can see the capabilities of getting comfortable with a quick view to do your ad hoc analysis, as opposed to a static spreadsheet where, okay, I have got to set everything up ahead of time. It gives me the value, but it's not flexible and pivoting as easily as a quick view would be. And I guess a lot of them are regimented in terms of that's the information they want day in and day out. And as long as you give it to them, then they're okay with it. I always prefer, you know, let me look at something in a different way or try and pivot the information. And I think I found I learn an awful lot more about looking at something in that venue rather than strictly looking at it at one way in terms of retrieving it the same way all the time. So
we're kind of just kicking off the conference here. It's day one. What are you most excited about? What are you looking to get out of?
I always look forward to some of the new things that OneStream is looking to introduce. One of the things that has me excited is Genesis in terms of dashboards. I have tried to work a little bit with dashboards, not very successfully. I can sort of play around with an existing one. I can't necessarily look to create something from scratch, but it's one of the areas where we're probably lacking in terms of the tremendous functionality that dashboards provide to OneStream or within OneStream. And that's one area where I'm sort of excited to see, hey, has it gotten to the point where it's quite a bit easier to create a dashboard without necessarily having all of that knowledge that goes into supporting dashboards or creating dashboards right now.
I agree with you completely. I really understand FP&A and how to code this software, but every time I look at the dashboards, I get very confused and I ask Ryann to
I
do.
was going to say, Greg calls me.
Yeah, every time.
But that's where I think, and we're still a lot of show me the numbers, and I think we need to get to visualizations that actually can give you a more comprehensive picture much easier and in a better manner. It's just a matter of getting the right mix of those visualizations and getting people comfortable in terms of, okay, I'll use the visualization as a starting point and then I'll get down to my numbers, but look at that information and really try to understand what it's trying to tell you.
It's true. It should be an interesting conference. I don't know if you heard that version 9 was just released last time.
Oh, I actually did not hear about that.
So we should hear lots about it, and I believe there's a lot about Genesis that we're going to hear this week. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Definitely looking forward to that. So.
Well, thank you for coming and joining us for our conversation and the podcast, and we look forward to spending some time in Nashville with you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me as a guest. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.